this cemetery before we came down about a month ago. One of the first pictures I found on Flickr was of this tree, and they called it the ivy tree. And for good reason. If you look up at this tree, if you know, this is covered in English ivy. And this is one of those cases where the ivy's gone wild. It's absolutely gone wild. Underneath all this is a tallow tree, a Chinese tallow tree.
It's on the Texas invaders list.
It is. It's an invasive tree, but it was also planted for ornamental reasons. It's an invasive, absolutely.
It's a dangerous invasive tree.
It's a dangerous invasive. So we were talking.
So you have a dead tree under here that you're
not dead.
No, here's not
dead.
There's a tallow-berry.
Tallow right here. Yeah, okay.
A lot of it, yes, is totally covered with the ivy, but it's not dead yet. And if you look, probably chances are, I mean, this ivy started under here as a ground cover. Perhaps the intention was to go through this whole family plot here. It's not known. This family plot also has, if you look in the corners, I believe this is a holly. Is this a holly with the white stripes on the back? Or is it a boxwood? We don't have hollies that look like this in the north. Boxwood? It's a boxwood?
Which is an invader.
This ivy was perfectly planted and it's taken over the tree. What do you think? If someone asked your opinion on what you should do with this?
Cut it down.
Cut it down.
Destroy it.
Cut it down?
Destroy it.
Why?
Well, wherever it's going to grow, it's going to go after all the stoneware and brickware and anything.
What are you talking about? The Chinese palace?
No, the ivy.
The ivy will cover it all up.
Well, what if this ivy is historic to the cemetery? What if it was planted by the family?
Yeah, that's more of a dilemma. I guess you leave it because this is a historical park.
Yeah, it's
so it stays for that reason.
What about the tree in general? Would you take off the ivy to save the tree?
I would leave it alone until the tree dies.
I think it's kind of an interesting tree.
I think it's a conversation piece.
It's a conversation piece. And one person in the last group said, well, it's a danger, it's dying, what if it falls down? And if you think about it, with all this vine, how slow is it going to go down? I mean, that vine's going to hold it all the way down.
He knows. One fell on his truck.
Very slowly.
Very slowly. I think it's kind of an interesting tree myself. Here's another problem you have with the mowers. And as you can see, all the tire tracks in here. This is like the bark on a tree when you get it on the roots. And it's just scraping it off. And that's what conveys the water, the outside. And you can see the mowers will also, here's a fresh one here. I don't know what happened here. There's a mower right over there. See in the roots. Yeah. What else? What else do you see in the roots? Yeah.
There's some glass up there.
Yeah. Well, we don't know for sure. They are older style bottles, and they are all upside down. And there's somewhat of a little pattern here in terms of somewhat of a row. There's another piece here. And what I do know is that several places we found, I mean, just by knowing, they have used bottles as graves to round, upturned bottles like a bottle garden. And this one, it's a really grainy picture, but I have the original. And it's from California, and it was a burro, and the miner and his burro, Facebook friend. So they would line the graves, and this could be what we're seeing here. The roots have upturned whatever's left of this, and this may be all that's left. There could be more buried that we don't know about. But that's just one thing. If you're uncovering an old cemetery and you find something like this, you may find a whole pattern in this grave. Issues up above with dead branches and falling. But something perhaps is aiding to its demise. And if you look down at the roots, if you walk over this way,
I think the road and the oils off the cars and tires.
And also, I think just the action of hitting it or going over those roots. If you think about this, this was originally designed. Now, I don't know the exact date of this, but this is the oldest section in here, and it may have, been designed when cars were going much slower. It may have been horse and buggy, where the width of the road wasn't a problem. But these roots in here are balanced out.
This is one with a car park, isn't it?
Yeah,
is that a car park?
No. It definitely has some issues here.
I saw some pictures.
Two things here. One we can see and one I'm going to point to. This is a very large cedar. It's planted in the middle of a bedstead for a little baby. You can see here, this right here has all been displaced. This would have been a curbing or cribbing around the little the grave, and I don't know. This may have been planted in here intentionally, but if you look over here, can you see the little tiny evergreen by Flores? That's the same tree as a baby. That's probably the size that was either planted here or began here, and that's how big it's going to get. So today, you know, they plant this little cedar and they think how wonderful. This is the result of what will happen. It's just to point out, even today, you know, if you have influence over the planting of any cemetery, a historic cemetery, that's a word of warning. Look at this. Look at there used to be a walkway. Look at the walkway there. Does anybody know what the name of this is? This style?
I've seen that.
It's called a bedstead. A bedstead. Because it looks like a bed and the body is underneath it. That sleeping idea. And it's also a place where flowers would have been planted and plants would have been. It would have been a decorative space in here, kept by the family.
And the urn is missing.
The urn is missing. You think of the term planting bed, again, bedstead. So, yeah.
That's the foot pillow, huh?
Yeah, the foot and the head. I've seen some that look very ornate, like a bed. That's really